It's not always easy to move from a lower performing government to a higher performing. It takes efforts beyond just the efforts within government. In our view, it takes a multi-stakeholder approach. There are many things that governments can do to be higher performing. And one thing that I think many governments need to do is probably to revamp or improve the performance management system for civil service such that it really is a meritocracy.
Yeah, I'm here with someone who is important, who is driving, the vehicle with us with Elevate Africa, and the person of Team Hanstad, who happen to be the vice chair of the Chandler Foundation's board of director. Thank you for joining us in Garabone.
It's an absolute pleasure to be
You were there in Abuja, the first
I was.
maiden edition, and now you are still partnering with us. Thank you for coming through. All right, my first question would be, many African governments, they lay claims to some form of reform, or they are committed to some form of reform, yet corruption, inefficiency persists. In your own view, is it a failure in the part of leadership or system or something else entirely?
It's a great question, and thank you for it. Let me maybe back up a step and
Yeah.
give some context behind the question. Governments are the most important lever for determining the social and economic outcomes of people. It's absolutely clear that high-performing governments, that is, governments that have capable civil service, that are characterized by delivery and integrity, lead to all kinds of the positive outcomes that we want. Good health, good education, better enabling environment for business and for civic life. So as to your question, it's not always easy to move from a lower performing government to a higher performing. It takes efforts beyond just the efforts within government. In our view, it takes a multi-stakeholder approach. So what do I mean by multi-stakeholders? It requires citizens demanding more of their government. And it's easy to demand by pointing fingers and blaming, saying, this is what you've done wrong, this is what you've done wrong. But citizens and civil society organizations that actually want to contribute to a movement forward. So it's easy to blame leaders at the top, and it requires good leaders. It requires leaders who are committed to the long term, committed to their citizens beyond the electoral cycles, who are willing to fight back against corruption. Because I can't remember who it was, but it was some prominent African who made famous the quote, "When you fight corruption, corruption fights back."
Former president of Nigeria,
Yeah.
late President Muhammadu Buhari.
And this is so true. So we can talk about fighting corruption, but corruption will fight back. So that requires persistence, a sustained level of integrity and courage to replace systems of endemic corruption to systems that are more based on integrity. So it is leaders, it is citizens, it is the private sector, by the way, too. I think the private sector, first of all, the business sector needs to clean its own house, but also needs to demand more from the government in terms of creating systems that will enhance more efficient delivery and more integrity. And I'll just give you one specific example on that, and that is the system of government procurement. So government procurement in most countries is the number one risk for corruption because much of government money goes through procurement. It's an easy place for corruption to happen if those systems of corruption or systems of procurement are not transparent, are not fair, and it benefits most companies and businesses general for those systems to be fair and transparent with easy access so that I don't have to be related to the president or
Representative
to a
of the
minister
government or
in
minister.
order
Yeah.
in order to get it. So creating that type of integrity, a strong government procurement system, it's not just good for integrity. It's good for service delivery, and it's good for businesses across. Of course, some of those businesses will lose out, the ones that have benefited from having close access and corruption. But for the bulk of businesses, it'll be good. So back to answer your question, it requires leaders across government, certainly from the top, that set the tone. We're going to reset the moral tone of the nation. We're going to make sure we have government characterized by delivery and integrity. But all across government, it requires leaders like that. It requires the private sector. It requires civil society, faith leaders. Faith leaders and traditional leaders are so powerful throughout the world, and that's certainly true in Africa. They have a role to play as well. The point is, it sometimes seems like it's hopeless. It's never hopeless. It's never hopeless. Many governments have emerged from that, and it can be done, and you can point to many examples, including here on the continent.
Right. Thank you so much. I just hope that all the critical stakeholder will play their role so that Africa can scale, you know. Okay, Africa's next chapter is often spoken of, but systemic failures still persist, you understand? So if you could enact, it might be one radical reform, what would that be, regardless of politics, that can bring about African, the next chapter that we're talking about?
And I have to choose just one?
Okay, because we are talking about Elevate Africa.
Uh,
Yeah, you can pick two.
There are many things that governments can do to be higher performing. And one thing that I think many governments need to do is probably to revamp or improve the performance management system for civil service such that it really is a meritocracy, such that, that often happens in very, very well-run companies. People who do well and perform are rewarded, and those who don't are left behind, not rewarded or terminated. So I think setting up a performance management system within the government is crucial for most governments in order to become higher performing. That's one. A couple of others I'd point to. I already mentioned the importance of government procurement systems, creating government
Yeah.
procurement systems that are fair. There's international standards now around open contracting that and many examples of, again, some from the continent that governments can follow. I also, around natural resource governance, this is another big area of corruption risks where creating more transparency, more accountability will lead to higher performing governments. Um, Ending anonymous companies, so sometimes called beneficial ownership transparency. Um, if if within any system you can create a company where you can't tell who's behind the company, it's just it's ripe for corruption. And there's very important steps that one can take to end anonymous companies through, again, something called beneficial ownership transparency. So these are a number of steps that all governments can take to lead to higher delivery and better integrity, accountability, and transparency.
All right. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts. On the last note, you are there at the maiden edition in Abuja. You are here now in Gaborone, Botswana. Where do you think Elevate Africa should be held next year?
Great question.
I will leave you to guess three countries.
Three?
Yes, just guess three countries that you love.
So I think it was great that you chose Botswana, first of all, for this year. I think Botswana has a very good story to tell, but few people outside Botswana know it. I just want to commend you on that choice. Botswana's we have an index called the Chandler a Good Government Index. And if we look at all African countries, the countries that score highest on it, number 1 is Mauritius.
Oh, wow.
Number 2 is Rwanda. Number 3 is Botswana. I think Namibia is right up there too. So you've already done Botswana,
Yes.
Mauritius, Rwanda, Namibia. I think those would be my 3.
All right. Thank you for sharing your thoughts with
Sure.
us. It's nice speaking to you. So this is where we are going to be drawing the curtain for Elevate Africa 2025 Botswana. So see you next year.